Welcome. Today's webinar is going to be on treatment plans in Infinity version 5.2. To begin using treatment plans, you would click Invoicing on the ribbon and click Treatment Plans to open the module. The whiteboard view shows all patients that currently have treatments on the whiteboard. Treatments are shown every half hour. A white circle indicates the treatment has not been completed. The number in the circle indicates how many treatments need to be accomplished in that time. So here you can see at 4 p.m. I have one treatment task that needs to be accomplished for Tank, whereas Lennox had 4 treatments done at 1:30 and 3 treatments done at 2, between 2 and. So you can see that a green circle indicates that the treatment was done on time. A yellow circle indicates that the treatment or the task is marked complete, but it was marked later or after the indicated time. So for example, the task for Moxie here was to be done between 1:30 and 2 p.m. If it was marked after 2 p.m., then you get the yellow circle. Now here I have a circle that is split. So 2 were marked late and 2 still need to be done for Moxie. To view what those tasks are, you would simply click on the circle. So as we look at Moxie down at the bottom, I do have 2 tasks. I have to record the pulse and respiration. The temperature was already done, and we did add an ear mite swap product to the invoice. Clicking on the time up above shows the treatments or tasks that need to be accomplished in that time frame for all patients on the whiteboard. If I click, for example, here on Tank, clicking on Tank shows me all tasks that are due for Tank. And here I've got some that were done earlier this morning, so I don't see all of his tasks. I'm only seeing the one for 4 p.m. However, there were some that were completed at 9 a.m. and 9:30. To add a task to the treatment plan, you would select the patient, and from the button up here in the whiteboard view, you can add treatment task. There are 3 types of task. A monitoring task is associated with a medical record field. So when you add or complete a monitoring task, it records the value in that medical record field. You can add an activity task. Some examples of an activity task might be clean the cages, walk the dog, but others are using it, for example, if they have to administer medications. And this would be for throughout the day. So for example, you add tramadol to a patient's treatment plan. Well, if you mark it as a product task, it will get added to the invoice. But if you don't want to keep adding tramadol to the invoice, then what you can do is add an activity task that indicates administer medication, and then you can give the directions in that task and when that should be done. Again, product tasks, when marked complete, are sent to the invoice. And I should mention, by the way, activity tasks, again, they don't add anything to the invoice, but they are recorded in the medical record. You can also add a canned treatment plan. So if I have, it works similar to a bundle, so you can add multiple tasks to a canned treatment plan that get added all at once. And if you are going to have a patient who's going to be in your hospital over a number of days, you can copy the treatment day from one day to the next. So let's take a look at a monitoring task. So just select this. Here's my dialog box. I have some monitoring tasks that I had already created, so I can select the task, select my provider, enter in any comments or directions, and I'm going to do it for today, so then I can indicate when I want to do this task and save and close. If I'm going to keep repeating monitoring tasks, then I can certainly click Save and New and just continue to add monitoring tasks. So for adding an activity task, as I mentioned, here I've got administer medications. So again, I could enter in any comments or directions, and I'll just go ahead and type in keep it very simple for my example here, but give in detailed directions on, how much should be administered and dosage and things like that. And here again, I can mark when I want to have that done, and I'll save and close. So again, by administering medication, we're going to give tramadol. It doesn't add this to the invoice, but it will at least make sure that the treatment is provided for this patient. And a record of it is recorded in this patient's medical record. Then we have the product tasks. So if I did want to add tramadol, for example, then I can certainly add, there we go. So I can certainly add tramadol and indicate, your quantity. If I'm going to be administering all 15 or 30, whatever it might be, I can do that and add that to the invoice, but again, use my activity task to administer those medications. The canned treatment plan, again, this shows, here for example, I have a few created. So if we're doing a canine spay, then I've got some activities or treatment tasks that need to be performed if doing a spay. So again, very similar if you're doing a bundle. Here I did an ear exam. We're going to do the typical pulse, respiration, temperature, an ear cytology, ear flush. If I wanted to add another product that I'm going to send home with them, I can certainly add that to my setup screen. Here's one for surgery pre-op. So again, just some basic tasks that need to be performed before pre-op, and then any products that you want to include in that treatment plan. All right. Now we have over here the search filter. So if I want to narrow my view of this whiteboard down to a particular patient, I can certainly enter in the patient name. If I'm looking for patients in a particular boarding ward or based on a treatment section, then I can filter it out by that. If I want to look at just patients that Dr. Dan has to take care of, then I can search Dr. Dan. And again, clear out the screen a little bit and show just the patients that Dr. Dan is responsible for. And with that, I'll clear my filter to redisplay all patients. So that is currently the whiteboard view. Again, it lets me see all patients that have treatment tasks on the treatment plan. And I can see based on the color coding and circles just who has to get treatments yet to be completed. And clicking the circle shows me specifically the tasks that need to be performed for that particular patient. Clicking on the time shows all patients that have treatments due at that time. Clicking on the patient's name shows all treatments for that particular patient. The other view is patient view, so I'm going to click on that tab. So this is when you want to work for specifically the active patient. So here I'm looking at ZZ, and if I want to add additional tasks, maybe I want to do another ear cytology at 5 p.m. So I can right click and add a treatment instance to do this ear cytology at 5. Here I added the tramadol. If I decide I want to give that sooner, I can right click and delete this instance, and I'll add it. Oops. Let me just add it here. So I can right click and add the treatment instance at 5 p.m. To mark a task complete, it's a matter of just simply clicking on the task. So in the patient view, if I click record, I can enter in the blood test, enter in any comments about this task, and that gets recorded, in this case, in the patient's medical record. In my treatment plan setup, I do have an option to notify me that if it was the last instance, so do I want to add more? So in this case, I'll click no. I have an activity task to administer medications, so I have to give 3 tramadol. So here I can mark that. Again, enter in any comments about the treatment, and I'll go ahead and click yes. I am going to get the prompt. So do I want to add more instances? I'll click no. This is an option, so if you don't want to have that prompt come up, you can certainly not have that option checked. If you right-click on an instance, I have an option, as I showed you before, to delete it. If I decide not to do a treatment at this time, I could delete it. If I decide not to do a treatment because maybe the patient wasn't available, I can skip the treatment. So if I click skip treatment, I can enter in the reason, and I do have a setting marked to prompt me for the reason. So I can skip the treatment, enter in my reason. I'm going to click no as far as adding. But here it shows me that it was skipped, and there is a report that you can run to show skipped treatments. Clicking on, over here on the far left, clicking on the little clipboard, I can delete instances. I can discontinue instances if they haven't already been marked complete. So let me select this tramadol. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. So here, if I decide not to administer tramadol, I could delete this. If I have multiple instances, let me add another one, and I'll mark this as complete. Just run through this real quick. All right. So if I have an instance that's already been marked complete. If I click on this little clipboard, I can discontinue the treatment. So I can't delete it since I've started administering the tramadol, so I can't delete this task, but I can discontinue it. And by choosing that option, I'm going to go ahead and it's going to basically delete any remaining or open instances. I'll go ahead and click yes. And again, it was a task that was complete. I just didn't need to finish. Maybe the patient went home early, so I didn't have to continue with pain meds at the hospital. You can also, in the whiteboard view, to mark tasks complete, just simply select the, again, whether it's the patient, the time, or whatever. Here I'm selecting the circle. I can come down here and record my tasks. In this case, I'm recording a monitoring task. And let me see what this one is up here. Here I've got the checkbox, so I can just mark this as complete. So it doesn't matter which view, if you're in the whiteboard view or the patient view, you can mark tasks complete in either view. Back on the patient view, there is this little beaker. Monitoring task you'll see in the setup screen where you can add default tasks. So if I click on the beaker, it says, do I want to add the monitoring tasks? Again, I'm looking at my current patient, so I'm going to go ahead and click yes, select my provider, and my default tasks were the pulse, respiration, and temperature. These are slightly grayed out, so what I need to do is add the instances. So I can come over here, right click, and add my instances for those monitoring tasks. In the patient view, you can also add tasks by clicking on the green plus sign for each section, selecting the appropriate task. For the diagnostic, treatment, and daily cares, or whatever sections you have, as you'll see in setup where you can define those. Again, just clicking, oops, let me select, there we go. Clicking the green plus sign will let me add a product for the appropriate section. Let's see. So here I just started typing for a radiograph, and I can go ahead and I'll select my dental radiograph, select my provider, enter in any comments and directions again, and enter in an instance. You also have various reports that you can run. So you have a multiple patient report. Just follow the prompts of the parameter wizard. Multiple patient, I have a provider report to see who is assigned to which patients. I have a single patient report. There's two of them. One is more detailed than the other, and then a skipped item. So if I do have a couple of items that were skipped today, I can run a report and view the reason for skipping treatments. Let's take a look at the setup screens. If you click on invoicing and go to treatment plans, let's select activity tasks. So here again, activity tasks are not assigned, or a provider is not assigned to them. Anyone in particular can do the tasks, or in a case of administer medications, again, it's just a way of adding the task, indicating it has to be done, but you don't want to add to the invoice. But yet it will be marked in medical records. So it's just a matter of clicking the add button, enter in the activity name, any specific instructions, and you can save and close, or keep repeating this by clicking save and new. And of course, existing tasks can be modified if you need to change the name or add directions. You can copy them and you can delete. As I've been going through and adding tasks, I've been right-clicking and adding instances when those tasks should be performed. Well, you can create canned instances, and let me show you how that would work. So if I go and add, for example, a monitoring task, and I'll select my blood test, I can come down here and select a canned instance. So I can go ahead and select when I want this to be done. So I only have a few created. So one canned instance is for 5 p.m. One is for noon. One is for 2 times per day at 8 and 3. One is 3 times per day at 8, noon, and 4. Let me just state again the time. If it's after, so for example, this one is after noon, it does not. This one is for noon, so if it's after 12 o'clock, it will not add the instance. If I add a task and use this canned instance, and let's say I add the task at 10 o'clock in the morning, it will not add the 8 a.m. instance, but it will add the 3. For example, this one, again, if I add the canned instance at 10 o'clock, it will not add the instance at 8 a.m., but it will add noon and 4. So to create a canned instance, again, click Add, enter the name, indicate by the checkbox when you want to add the instance. So here if I do I'll do 9 a.m. Here I can select 9 a.m. And you can also have these repeat not just for the current day, but I can have this be a task that gets repeated over multiple days. Canned treatment plans, you would click the Add button, enter in the canned treatment plan, and I can enter in my appropriate tasks. So we want to do the pulse, respiration, temperature kind of thing, so I could add that and indicate when I want to have it done. I can add my activity tasks. And I can select my products. So maybe we'll do a basic exam. We'll do that at 9. And then we'll do some dental work. And so on. And you would keep adding any activities that you would want to make up this canned treatment plan. I'll go ahead and save and close. So now it's just a way of adding several tasks, including products, to a patient's treatment plan. Monitoring defaults, that's when I came over here and I clicked this little beaker and I added the pulse, respiration, and temperature. When I clicked on monitoring defaults, I identified of my monitoring tasks which ones I defined as defaults. So I could click this beaker and add them all at once. Monitoring tasks, click the, again, click the Add button, give it a name, and then what you do is associate that task with a medical record field. Here are the different sections. So as we're looking at, especially the patient view, we've got the monitoring and activity. Those cannot be changed as far as if I select this, I cannot delete it, I can't rename it, I can change the color coding. With daily cares, you can modify those. So I could give it a different name and of course different color, and you can add additional sections. Here's the settings tab. So if I don't want that prompt to always come up that it's the last treatment, then I can clear that out. I do like the prompt for a reason, so I have to type in why was a treatment skipped. And you also have the option to set work hours. Now, that's not checked by default. So by default, you have a 24-hour time frame. So from midnight to the following, to 11:59 p.m. the following. But if you want to define your work hours, and that's just it, it's work hours, not the hours that you're open for business. Because you might have staff that comes in early to treat patients who are in your hospital. So you want to make sure that your start time and end time reflects that. If I were to set this to 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., but I have to give treatments to patients before 8 a.m., it will not let me add instances before or after my defined work hours. So make sure that your work hours, if you're going to do this, is just that. When do you actually come into the clinic to work to administer treatments? So I set mine to 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. so that I can create treatments, tasks to occur as early as 6 a.m. and as late as 8 p.m. Just a couple of other things. If you have a patient that lands on the treatment plan and you decide for whatever reason, maybe they were added accidentally, you're not going to need to treat them, you can right click and go to treatment plans. So here I'm right clicking on my list bar, going to treatment plan, so I can close the treatment plan for that patient. And it gets them off my treatment plan. Another question that had come up by someone was labs. If you are adding lab work to the treatment plan as a product, it gets added to the invoice. But then you have to go to, for example, the travel sheet and request the lab work. That gets added then to the invoice. So now you've invoiced for the same lab twice. So basically the recommendation is make it as you typically do, but on the treatment plan, look at or consider creating an activity task, something like this, to discuss or plan blood work or discuss lab work or something like that. So it's not going to be added as an extra charge to a patient's treatment, but again, it serves as a reminder for the staff to address the lab work or the blood work. That concludes our webinar for today. If you have any further questions on using treatment plans, again, don't hesitate to contact our customer service department and have someone go over treatment plans with you. Thank you for attending and have a good day.